much, Sagar. Thank you everyone. Good morning, good evening, and thanks for joining once again for the Impact Salesforce Saturday session. So today we have Sagar Pareek with us. He's a senior Salesforce consultant and a golden hoodie winner. And the topic of today's session is Apex Enterprise Patterns. As I already mentioned, Sagar is a golden hoodie winner. He's a 2x Salesforce book author, developer group leader at Bikaner, and these are the social handles where you can connect with him. And if you have some doubts, if you want some guidance, mentorship, you can surely reach him out. Yeah, so these are some quick information about the group, the New Delhi Salesforce DG. The first revival meet was happened in Feb 2016, and these are the social handles where you can connect with us and stay updated about the upcoming events, and also in case you missed to attend any event in the past, you can also check out the link to the recordings, as well as you can subscribe to the YouTube channel for the daily updates of each session. Yeah, these are quick details about the group, like where you can find all the past sessions and the upcoming sessions lined up with the New Delhi group. Next slide, please. Talent Central is an initiative taken by the New Delhi group where we have tried to solve a problem and build a bridge between the job seekers and the industries. So basically it helps to the Salesforce aspirants to get their first job or maybe a change in the Salesforce ecosystem. And we were successfully able to help more than 10 plus trailblazers in the community. Yeah. Mentorship Central is another such initiative taken by the New Delhi group where we help the mentees to be aligned with a mentor and help them to progress in their journey of learning Salesforce. Yeah, thank you so much, Sagar, again, for being a speaker with us. Over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. This is Sagar Pareek. So today we are going to talk about Apex Enterprise Patterns. So you might have, or you might be getting started with Apex coding, or you might have experience in Apex in coding. But when it comes to best practices, that is something we need to follow at most of the time. When I say most of the time, without best practices, you cannot scale up your project. You might run your project, but at the end, you have to follow the best practices, because what happens is after a long running period of a project, there comes a time where new people come into the project, they start scaling the project, or the big project becomes bigger, or new features got added, and it becomes tedious to maintain the whole project or the Apex code base. So Apex Enterprise Patterns come into picture when we talk about more around Apex rather than the declarative part of Salesforce. So it's a best practice for large scale development projects, and it was promoted by Martin Flower in 2003 in Patterns of Enterprise Application Architecture. Later on, it was adopted in Salesforce by Andy Fawcett in 2014, now known as Salesforce Lightning Platform Enterprise Application Architecture. So there are basic two themes when it comes to talking about Apex Enterprise Patterns. The first one is separation of concerns, and the second one is dry principle. So when we talk about separation of concerns, it is something, again, the same thing which I was talking about in the first slide. It's maintaining the code base. You might be able to do coding, but when it comes to write a good code which can be maintained over the time, that's the very tricky part. Because if you write something today, it is not going to last forever. There would be one time that would be coming in your project where you have to again make changes, or a new developers will come, the team will expand, and you have to set proper boundaries somewhere so that your code won't conflict or your code don't have long-term issues. So separation of concerns talks about that if we want to make the code maintainable means changes can be accommodated over the time. We need to set proper boundaries. If you won't set the proper boundaries, the code will fail, or people will keep on writing junk code or keep on dumping repetitive code into the system. Separation of concerns talks about separating all the code base into chunks and then maintaining them basis of those chunks only. We will talk about more in upcoming slides onto this. So separation of concerns talk about following layers. There are 4 layers. The first one is presentation layer. So if we talk about presentation layer, declaratively we have the Lightning UI, page layouts, report, dashboard, screen flows, and programmatically LWC components, Aura, and Visual Force. So it's more kind of what you see on the screen. Presentation layer talks about that. So if we talk about making change into the UI, you will go ahead and make changes into presentation layer rather than making changes anywhere else. Now, digging deeper from where the Apex starts, that is business logic layer. So business logic layer is something where your logic lies, which is tightly coupled to your business processes. So declaratively, we will talk about like flow, process builder, and workflow. And programmatically, it's Apex. Now, if we dig deeper, there is data access layer, which is like a prevention layer, or a layer which opens up the access to users based upon their profiles or based upon what type of access they have. Then we have declarative like flow data elements, which are like create, update, or get record things. Programmatically, we have SOSL, SOQL, Salesforce REST API, or SOAP API, which allows or which gives you the data, which fetches the data for you for your application. The last one is database layer, which is sitting down in the line, which talks about custom objects, fields, and relationships. And programmatically, it talks about Apex triggers. So this is something we should keep in mind as of separating each and every layer. So if you take a look at it, database layer, data access layer, and business logic layer, all these 3 have Apex over there, because even SOQL or SSL you are going to write in the Apex when you are writing your code base. So if you look at it carefully, it is dividing the Apex code into 3 parts. But the presentation layer is more kind of the JavaScript or your page layouts or UI that you see. But when it comes to Apex, you have to decisively take decision, or you have to precisely take decision where you have to segregate out the Apex code. And that is where the separation of concern is time. Now, dry principle. So when we talk about separation of concerns, the another one is, which I even talked about in the first slide, again, dry principle, like do not repeat yourself, means don't write repetitive code. So basically, let's say you return 2 classes, a new developer comes in, he again writes up the same code, but in different classes. 2 years, again, if you go down the line, again, new developer comes in, you don't know what is written into another code base or another classes. He will again write the same thing. So that's the repetitive work. But when it comes to making changes like addition of fields or doing some customization again in the system, you will again have to go into all those 7 to 8 classes, make changes, and it would be repetitive work. So dry principle says, do not repeat yourself, don't write repetitive code, don't write things again and again. Organize your code at one spot. Again, it is coupled with the separation of concerns only. Basically, you have to write your Apex decisively at one part, like what part will fall in logic layer, database layer. You have to think it through and write code at once only and make changes whenever the changes are required. You have to make the changes at one place only, so that the source is only one. So there would be single source of all the information for your code base. Yeah. So how to do it? So this was all theory. Now what is practical thing? How we can do it? Do everybody will have their different terms of doing it? No. So this is what like Apex design patterns or Apex enterprise pattern talks about. It is basically based upon FFLIB. So it is, FF means financial force library. It's a open source GitHub project that is available on Git. I will just show you. So it's FFLIB Apex Common Framework. It was developed by Andrew Fawcett and Financial Force team. It's made available on GitHub. It contains 5 key elements. The first one is selector, then domain, service, and then unit of work. And these all work all together. It's not necessary that you will implement all of them. You can implement any one of them, mainly from selector domain. But it is a best practice that you follow all of them, and it makes your code more maintainable. Now, where is this Apex Common Framework available? So if I show you my Chrome, so on GitHub, if you go github.com and then Apex Enterprise Pattern /FFLib / Apex -common, you will be able to land onto this. And if you click on deploy to Salesforce, you would be able to deploy it directly into your org. Are you guys able to see my screen? This Chrome?
No, Sagar, we can see the presentation.
Okay. My bad. Can you see it now?
Yes, now it is visible. Thank
Yeah, sorry about it. So here we go. So this is the URL, github.com/apex-enterprise-pattern /FFLib-apexcon. Even if you Google Apex Financial Force Library, you will be able to land over there. So FFLib Apex Common, before deploying it, you need to deploy Apex mocks. So first, using this deploy to Salesforce button, you can click on Apex mocks framework. You just need to click on login into Salesforce, depending upon the type of organization you are using. It's a production or developer or like sandbox, or you just need to select it, click on login into Salesforce, and directly log in, and it will install that one up. And after installing Apex mocks, you need to install this FFLib Apex Common. So now, once this is deployed, what you need to do is you need to start using all the classes that are available. So now we will talk about some of them. So let me go back to the presentation. So is what we discussed. It contains key 5 elements that are selector, domain, service, unit work, and these are the classes that are available in FFLib framework only. So when I say selectors, it's a selector layer. When I say domain layer, it's if I say domain, it's a domain layer. If I say service, it's a service layer, and unit of work is a unit of work layer. So we adopt these classes, we extend it into our own classes from that framework. There are some abstract classes that we can call or we can implement in our classes and make use of this framework. So let's move on to the first one, which is selector one. So if I say selector layer or selector pattern, that is one and the same thing. So selector, what is selector? So selector, as its name, it will select. Now what it will select? It will select the data. It will select data using the queries, which you will be writing up in your code and give you the results. Yeah, but okay. Now we do it all the day. We write the queries. What is new into this? The new thing is separation of concern. So you have to write your queries only into one place related to that single object. So let's say you are doing query onto opportunity or product object. So you will write everything in a single class. You don't have to write that code again and again. Your code will be in a way that it would be in separate methods, so that you can call the methods wherever needed, but you don't have to write queries again and again. So it encourages bulkification. It takes the IDs and returns you the S object or database.query locator, means the list of your results. So how it looks like, let me show you in my VS Code. Can you see my VS Code now? Harshit, can you see my VS
Yes, Sagar, it's visible.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so you can see that what I've done, I have extended FFLIB as object selector over here, the first line. From that FFLIB library, I have just extended FFLIB as object selector class. And in the first method or the list, what you can see over here, I have written all the fields which I need. So I have written product2.description, ID, is active, name, product code. So these are the fields which I'm going to use in my query. So whatever the query will resultantly give me, it will always give me these fields as part of it. So whenever you write, like the name which I have given this class is selector pattern, but you can give it on the basis of the object you are using, because it should be one class per object. So if I am doing it query as a product2, I must have written it as a product2 selector class or product2 selector, and it will give me the result. I will call this class everywhere wherever I need the results. So now the second thing what you need to mention into this class is which type of object you are going to use. So you can use get s object type. Again, these are all abstract methods because I have extended this FFLIB s object selector class from the framework. I have to use these methods and define them over here. So product2.s object type. Again, this class now knows that what type of return type I should give or which type of result I have to give. Now, what I will do is I will simply write in any of the method or anywhere, any type of method I can write over here, but that should return the list of product2, because I'm again putting out all the results from product2 object. I will just write select s object by ID. It is defined in this FFLIB s object selector class. We will just take the ID as per the rule, as what I said in the slide deck. We will just take the set of IDs and return the result or query locator. So query locator again returns the list of records only. So we are returning the records. So it is giving select as it is giving list of all the product2. Now, how this query looks like? This query looks like this: select description, ID is active, name, product code from product2, where ID in ID set. So ID set, we are taking it as an input over here, and order by is always by default by this library as by name, ascending, null first. Now, what happens like if you want to change the order by? That Sagar, I do not want to use the same order by. I want to define my own order by. So if you want to do your own order by, you can just write public override get order by. So this is something which is again provided by the library. You can just type return is active, or like whatever the field you want to use. You want to use ID, you want to use first name, last name, whatever the field you want to use from that particular object. You can define the fields with what type of order it is, descending or ascending, and it will convert that one up. So now you can see the resultant query becomes select description, ID, the fields which we have defined already at the top, with the new order by, which is order by is active DESC null first, and the product code ASC means ascending order nulls first. So it has completely changed the query in terms of order by. Now, you do not want to use this way. You do not want to go with this way, like defining the function, defining the fields at the first way, and then again and again calling up the methods and making changes. You want to write a custom selector. You can do that as well, but that will require the dynamic SOQL. So for that, what you need to do is you can write a function which will again return the object type or any of the custom or standard object that you want to return, we can simply write a string with dynamic query or dynamic binding over there, where we have like select 0 from 1. If I'm saying this is for some of you it would be new, so I'm just explaining this one up. Select 0 from 1 means select 0 this one, because it's a part of a list. So it's 0th element, then first, then second, then third. So select 0, which means get field list string. So what is get field list string? Get field list string is this one. So we have defined the fields over a product to description. So it will take description and everything like ID, active name, product code. And then I am just taking a where clause over here. I'm defining the new where clause over here. I'm not changed the complete query. I've just changed the where clause. I put it up my own where clause. If you want to put up your own new query, you can write your query over here as well, like select ID, comma, name, everything over here. And then just simply return the database.query. So it will just give you the simply put the database.query and it will return the query locator or the query list of records from this function. If you want to if you want to put the record limit as well, you can put that limit as well by having the record limit integer or putting up an integer value at last by concatenating into your string, and will give you the result. So for the above one, it gives you some stuff and output. Select description ID is active name, product code from product 2, with system mode stamp is within last 30 days, and order by the order by which we have already defined. And limit it will take as per the record limit which is supplied. I have given it as 10, but you can assume like it will come as a input, whatever I will be supplying while calling this method. Now, there is one more way without doing this string thing as well, that comes with the factory thing, which is again provided by this library only, where you can define a function with any of the input. Like if you want to take where clause, if you want to take the limit, you can do that as well. But you need to use a factory over here. So the factory name is new query factory. Again, this is a method provided by the FFLIB library only. You just need to write new query factory dot. For setting up the condition, you can simply type the condition. If setting up the limit, you just need to write dot set limit and it will set the limit. And then at the end, you just need to write to SOQL. So over here, you don't have to write a query or dynamic query over here. It will build up a dynamic query for you. So you don't have to worry about the and or all those things. So if you keep on writing set condition, you will keep on setting up the condition over there, but it would be the and clause. If you want to make more changes, then you have to slightly modify this function again. But the motive of the selector pattern is to write the queries, all type of queries over here only. If you want to get the IDs by name of a record, like for an object, you want to get all the records based upon the ID. If you want to get the record based upon the name or certain criteria, all the queries will come over here. And if you want to make it more sustainable, you can use this FFLIB object selector class, extend it over here and make queries dynamic, so that if you make change in future, you would be able to make change for each and every class or each and every class which is using this selector class. So it is a centralized pattern over here for selection or querying up the records. Now, going up to the second thing, which is domain pattern. So before going on to domain pattern, we need to understand the service pattern. What is service pattern? So service pattern talks about aggregating all the logic which is lying there in your system and make it as a service contract for the framework or for your whole code base to talk to these services and then decide what needs to be done. So it's not like that if you have to take decision, let's say if a certain kind of account is valid or invalid, then create a contact, otherwise don't create a contact. You don't have to write such type of logic again and again in your code. Rather than writing it again and again, you can write the business logic at one place and make use of it, and it will be part of the service class. So let me give you an example. So I've written this opportunity service. This opportunity service talks about applying a discount. So it's a simple function of applying a discount, and it takes opportunity IDs and discount percentage. And then it just goes on to the opportunities, takes out the opportunity line item. Based upon the opportunity line item, it factor ups with the discount and puts up the result out. So it will just simply calculate the discount. But the main thing is, like, if you want to apply GST, if you want to apply VAT, all kind of taxes you want to do, or discounting, or if you want to give more goodies on the top of an opportunity, let's say you want to put up more line items of free of cost, whatever the business logic is there, you can do all of these things inside a service class. And service class, it will be on your will. It will not follow the FFLIB library. You don't, if you see, I'm not using any extension, or I'm not writing extend over here, so I can simply use it. Now, what is the best way to utilize this opportunity service now? How to utilize it? What are the benefits of using service? So once I've written the code, all the code is a centralized class, service class. I can simply go to any batch job or any future job or any controller or any of the class, any trigger, and simply use that service. So in case of example, I've written this batch job. What this batch job is doing is, it simply takes the scope using this query, passes up the scope into the apply discount function. So I'm just simply calling this opportunity service dot apply discount, and rest of the processing would be taken care of by opportunity service rather than by doing this by this batch. So if you get this, like, I have not written a single line of business logic into this class. There's no calculation going on to this batch job. Everything is being passed on to the opportunity service over here. So it reduces rewriting of the code. Let's say I have to do the similar processing using future, or I have to do it through the controller. I don't have to write whole code again. Again, I will just call this class and it will be done. So this is something related to the service. Now, service, if you want to utilize the service into triggers, or your services are becoming more complex and it runs into the context, let's say in before insert, after insert, in a trigger. So best example is trigger. If you want to utilize into the context way, you have to use the domain pattern. So now the service was free of all the things, all the niggles. You don't have to utilize the FFLIB framework. Now comes the domain pattern. Now domain pattern is something which will go into the context thing. In terms of trigger, as an example I'm talking about, I just want to run that service apply discount into, let's say, before insert only or after insert only. What I will do, I will use a domain pattern. Now, why we are using domain pattern? So domain pattern will make your code tied to a specific object only. It will handle it working as a wrapper around what context you want to trying to achieve, and it will basically, it will call the unit of work. We will talk about it in last slide, but it will again pass on the main working code or main working logic to one of the unit of work, which will handle all the relationships in your code. So again, it will make you more confused what is going on with the service and domain, but let's jump onto the example. You will be able to understand what I'm trying to explain over here. So domain. So let's say what I've done is I have written Apex opportunity trigger, let's say trigger, opportunity trigger on opportunity. I've given all these after delete, after insert, all the events are present over here. What I have simply done is I have written FFLIB S object domain. So this is something we are again utilizing the financial force library. And then I'm writing trigger handler opportunities.class. Simple as that. I've written like that. Now I want to run this particular opportunities class, this particular code into the one of the event. What I will do is in my opportunity class, I will have the methods named like that only. So on after insert. So this instance we are talking about is on after insert. So I will put all my logic over here related to what should happen after insert, or sorry, what should happen after insert. It will do the rest of the things. But remember, when you are using domain layer, you have to make use of the unit of work. But again, unit of work is a separate thing. We will talk about it at the last stage. But remember that if you want to make your code run into a context, you have to use the domain layer, pass on what type of class you want to use. If you want to use opportunity, if you want to use contact, just write the name of the class, your trigger is done. You don't have to do each and everything into trigger only. And each object, the best practice is each object will have only one trigger on their name. And since we are using only one trigger, you have to make use of all the events or whatever the qualifying events you want to use. You can write down over there and just pass on the responsibility to the FFLIB library. And this class will handle rest of the things. Now over here, coming to this opportunities class, what I have done is I've just taken the account IDs which I got and I sent it for the processing. I'm just simply update. What I'm doing is I'm just simply processing the update opportunity activity. So simple as that. And what it is taking unit of work. But now you will say, Sagar, what is unit of work? We are not getting what is happening over here. Why we are passing over the unit of work over here in the domain. So unit of work is responsible for maintaining the relationships or any DML operations that you want to do. But remember, it is tightly coupled to your domain layer. Now, let's talk about something theoretical related to unit of work, then we will come back to the code. So, unit of work. So basically, this class exposes the instance of unit of work class that is available in FFLIB, capture the records. That's what I said. It will do the DML operation, create, update, delete, whatever the methods that you want to use as part of your event purpose, as part of your trigger or any other service, you can utilize it as a part of unit of work. But remember that unit of work works on a particular contract. That contract is you have to always register things with the unit of work. Let's say you want to insert an opportunity, then you want to insert a contact, or let's say you want to create first you want to create an account, then you want to create opportunity and you want to tie that opportunity with account, then you want to create a contact and tie that contact with an account. So all that relationship thing, inserting thing, that should be handled by unit of work as part of the domain layer perspective. So let me go back to the code base and try to explain what is the point of making use of unit of work. So this is a sample code where I have written how to make use of FFLIB unit of work class. So what I will do is I will just write FFLIB unit of work. I will just create an object out of it and put new schema.s object type. What type of objects I want to make use of? I want to insert a product. I want to insert a price book entry. I want to insert an opportunity line item. That's it. And the whole code would be inserted. Now, this looks good, but how I have not provided any value over here, how it is getting into it. So first thing, so whenever you are doing something, let me jump onto the final thing, then we will come to this complex return thing. So whenever you are doing something, let's say you want to insert a new opportunity, you have to write unit of work register new, which means first of all, this opportunity would be inserted. Okay. Then you want to insert the opportunity line item. So what you will write, unit of work, register new, opportunity line item. Then opportunity line items field where the relationship would be established. And to whom the relation should be established? It should be established with opportunity. Then you will provide the opportunity object over here. That is OPP. Now, going on to the last one, which is register the relationship. So you have created opportunity, then opportunity line item, which have the reference of opportunity with it. Now you want to register the relationship that these both can be created as a parent and child. So what you will do, you will just write unit of work, register relationship, opportunity line item with price book entry ID, PB. That's it. So this whole relationship would be created into the system. Now, what's the benefit of it? Where do we have supplied the values over here? The supplying of the values remain the same as what you do while doing the DML operation normally in Salesforce. It will be same like creating the objects over here. You can see what I have done is I have created, forget about this for loop. We just talk about this instance of opportunity where I have created a new opportunity object, provided the name, stage name, close date. I registered it as new. So this is what we talked about. I have registered it as new. I have not written insert over here, if you remember. Now going on to the product, let's forget about this for loop. Product, again, I have created the product. I have just written register new. Same for the price book entry or the opportunity line item. I've created, I will just written register new. If I want to put them into relationship, I will simply write register relationship. And whole commit work or committing to a database would be taken care by a unit of work. I don't have to do anything. And simply, you just need to, at the end, you just need to write FFLIB unit of work, UOW, that's it, simple. So again, UOW was already created at the top. This is the basic way of, or basic the relationship hierarchy that you want to create. Just define it over here, put your data over here, and simply keep on writing what you want to do. You want to register new, register relationship, register relationship. Rest all would be taken care by unit of work itself. So this is something related to the Apex enterprise patterns. I hope you have liked about how we can put our code into one place rather than writing it again and again, and make utilization of this FFLIB framework. If you have any questions, please ask me. Anybody having any type of question? Anyone?
Ping in chat. We have one question, Sagar, like, can we write test classes also using this framework?
It's up to you. If you want to utilize, you can do it. But the best way of writing test classes is to create your test data generators and do the thing. This is mainly for the business logic segregation. It's not for test classes, I would say. You can use the test classes generators basically for that. So you can put all your test data into one object, in one class, and utilize that into your test class. That would be much easier than using this framework over there.
Okay, I hope Shubhajit this address your question. Another question is it's it's available for across objects, right? Like
Yes,
Satindra is
yes,
asking
yes,
that.
yes. You can use it on all the objects that you want to do.
Okay, then there is other question like one trigger for one object is a better way.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. Yeah. So basically, there comes a problem when you write multiple triggers onto same object. What happens is there might be recursion, there might be code conflict when the execution happens. So it's better to write one trigger. What used to happen in past is people used to write, like before insert they used to write different, after insert they write to different trigger, before delete, or like after insert, before update, after update, like 4, 5 or 6 or 7 triggers they used to write. Or for even for this same triggering event, they used to write multiple multiple triggers over there. So what happens then is, like, you will be confused which trigger is responsible for what. So that to avoid confusion, it's best to use a single trigger and make use of a single class, so that even a problem comes or error comes or exception comes, you would be able to debug onto one class only.
Okay, thank you, Sagar. One more question by John. There is a two object. One object is a buyer and one is a seller. In seller object, one number field attend is there. In attend field, need to display buyer's account.
This is, I think this is not
Need,
related to the content that we are
okay, okay.
today. Yeah. It's more
So
towards
other
an-
question from
Mhm.
Hussein, like which scenario we can use this framework?
Yeah, okay. So this is applicable to all these scenarios. It's not like that. It's for particular scenario. Yeah, but it is more useful into large scale implementations. Like if you have bigger code base or bigger implementation going on, you can make use of this. Basically, it helps the developers to segregate their code and make it more maintainable.
Okay. Last question from Naveen. While deploying from Git, anything from Salesforce or will there capture like session
No,
ID?
nothing. Yep. No, nothing will get captured up. It's a free, it's like a open source free thing. You just need to install it. And I think most of the bigger implementations are already utilizing this library. Even if they are not utilizing this library, they have created their own design patterns by taking inspiration from this library.
Okay. And how to overcome bulkification?
Overcome bulkification. I didn't got that question. Bulkification is basically good practice, right? Bulkification means you are bulkifying your code, you are following lists or collections into your code, and you're avoiding multiple for loops. Whatever you do in a one way, like you put all together in a collection and then insert it or then update it, rather than using it one by one. Like if you want to insert 3 accounts, you will not write insert account 3 times. You will do put them into a list and then update it. Or whenever you will capture the data from Salesforce, you will do a query. You will put it into a list or set or map and then use it. That is bulkification. We can't overcome it. We can use it. Srinivas, if you have, like, I have not understood your question, please feel free to ask it again.